Our neighborhood's property management is completely clueless and reckless. These are extraordinary times, and I understand that elevator access is restricted to our own floors. But locking the rooftop, which serves as an emergency fire escape, what are they trying to do? Trap us inside in case something happens. It was an early summer evening after dinner. My son, Xiaobao, wanted to go outside to look at the stars. Stars? Have you finished your homework? Memorized your vocabulary yet? I threw the dishes into the sink, feeling frustrated. At 6 this morning, our neighborhood was abruptly locked down. I was caught off guard and lost several important cases. I still haven't found a proper solution for my clients. Xiaobao has also switched to online classes at home, and his learning efficiency has certainly dropped. He doesn't even realize he needs to work harder, and now he wants to look at stars? How can he be so careless? I finished all my school tasks. The last time I saw the stars was when we stayed at Grandpa's house. His words hit me hard. He's only 7. This is the age when he should be stargazing. Who am I to stifle his nature? How can I, in my helpless rage, demand excellence from him? I put down the dishcloth and said, "All right, let's go. Dad will take you to see the stars." A few minutes later, I had my arm around my son's shoulder as we stepped out of the building. One glance at the sky, and my heart sank. Thousands of city lights, along with the bright decorations, completely blocked the sky. There was no way we could see any stars. This place won't work. Let's try somewhere else, I said, pulling Xiaobao towards the community's fountain square. But that wasn't much better. This is the city's most expensive school district, where every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. The developers had crammed high-rise buildings into every possible space to maximize their use of resources. The densely packed towers encased the less than 500 square meter plaza like a deep well. The small patch of sky above was barely the size of a palm. There were no stars. Xiaobao was disappointed, and I felt guilty. I had worked myself to the bone to buy this school district apartment, only to turn my son into a frog in a well. When I was his age, I used to climb onto rooftops to watch the stars. Suddenly, I had an idea. "Son, come on. Dad's going to take you somewhere better." Xiaobao followed me back to the 9th floor in confusion. Then I dragged him into the stairwell to climb the stairs. He suddenly caught on. "Dad, are we going to the rooftop?" That's right. The rooftop has a full view of the sky. But we'll have to climb up. There are 26 more floors. Are you ready for that? I'm not scared. I'll go first. Xiaobao bolted up the stairs. I started running after him, but after a few steps, my knees gave out. No. Tomorrow I'll have to ask the property management to upgrade my elevator card to include rooftop access. The elevators might be restricted, but I'm a lawyer. I know my rights. But tonight, no matter what, I couldn't let my son down. I'd crawl up with my hands and feet if I had to. By the time I reached the 30th floor, I was nearly out of body, just about to collapse. That's when Xiaobao ran back down, telling me the door to the rooftop was locked. I jumped up in a flash. The rooftop is an emergency fire escape. Who dares to lock it? Don't worry, let me go check, I said, gritting my teeth as I dragged myself to the top of the stairs, only to confirm that the door to the rooftop was indeed locked. No way through. I led Xiaobao across the skywalk on the 34th floor toward the other building. Our tower has 2 units per floor with a skywalk connecting them, and there are 2 doors to the rooftop. There's no way the property management would be dumb enough to lock both, right? Turns out I was still too optimistic. This property management is completely clueless and reckless. I immediately called the 24-hour concierge and demanded they send someone to unlock it right away. To my surprise, the concierge passed the buck, saying the lock was placed by one of the residents and suggested I negotiate with the top floor owner. Negotiate? The rooftop is a common area. What right does a single resident have to lock it? And you, knowing about it, still do nothing. Aren't you complicit in this negligence? The rooftop is indeed a public space. If all residents had your sense of responsibility, that'd be great. Unfortunately, we are powerless here. We still suggest resolving this through negotiation. Powerless? What kind of attitude is that? Are you forcing me to file a complaint? Complaining is your right, but it won't solve the problem. If you don't want to negotiate, we suggest calling the police. This concierge must have a screw loose. I just want to take my son to look at the stars, and he's telling me to call the police?
Fine.
Tell me, which resident put the lock on the rooftop? I wanted to see who was so arrogant. Unit 3401. It's over. There's no way we're seeing the stars tonight. I've got quite a beef with the owner of 3401. A deep one. Earlier this spring, after a heavy rain, she posted in the community group chat that the roof had leaked and flooded her home. She wanted to use the maintenance fund and asked the homeowners committee to sign off on it. I was the first to object. This complex hasn't been around for even 3 years and is still under warranty. The developer should be responsible for fixing the roof. As soon as I took the lead, other homeowners followed, insisting that 3401 should go after the developer instead of eyeing the collective maintenance fund. 3401 responded by sharing a few pictures of the rooftop. The photos showed a mess of bamboo poles, wooden planks, and withered vegetable trellises scattered all over the place. There were piles of soil and organic fertilizer everywhere, completely clogging the drains. One of the photos, dated the day after the rain, showed the water on the rooftop ankle deep, with white foam boxes floating like little boats. 3401 said the developer had already determined that the leak was caused by owners planting vegetables without permission, damaging the waterproofing layer and causing water to accumulate from the debris. It wasn't a structural issue, so the developer refused to cover it. So that's how it was. Well, you should be asking the owners who planted those vegetables to compensate you. The rooftop is a public area, and their actions are a violation of collective interests. How could you even think of using the maintenance fund for this? I've always been firm that whoever is responsible should be held accountable, no muddling the facts. Other homeowners agreed as well. The vegetable growers needed to be taught a lesson, and we should firmly resist such actions that harm public interests for petty personal gains. 3401 said she had already asked, but no one would admit to it. Well, you can always pursue legal channels. First, report it to the police to find out who's responsible, and then sue them. I helpfully pointed out a legal path for her. But she refused, saying that by the time the legal process was done, the roof would have collapsed. Other homeowners, seeing her insistence on using the maintenance fund, got frustrated too, accusing her of not wanting to offend anyone. She's the owner of the top floor. How could she not know who planted the vegetables? Whether she knew or not, it was still her issue with the vegetable growers. She needed to handle it herself, not drag the entire community into it. Right, there's no way we can use the maintenance fund, but if you need to go to court, I can represent you. I took the opportunity to reveal my identity as a lawyer and express my deep sympathy for her situation. But she coldly shot down my offer. No need, I don't trust lawyers. The discussion ended with that remark, and no one brought it up again. 3401 went silent. I thought the matter had long been settled, but it turned out it was far from over. Things only escalated into a vicious cycle. The rooftop was damaged because of the vegetable growers, and when the committee refused to use the fund, she locked the entire rooftop. This childish act of revenge was both immature and laughable. It's not that she didn't trust lawyers. She didn't trust the law. Dad, we can't see the stars tonight, can we? Xiaobao looked at me nervously. The little guy had been bouncing with excitement earlier, but after climbing dozens of flights of stairs, he was now drenched in sweat and looking disappointed as he noticed my frown. I patted his sweaty head. Wait here. Daddy will go find someone to open the door. I still didn't know which neighbor was 3401, but tonight, I had to talk some legal sense into her. I walked down to the 34th floor corridor and found the door to 3401. I knocked lightly a few times. There was a Korean drama playing inside, but after knocking 3 times, there was no response. I wasn't sure if she was asleep and didn't hear me, or if she knew it was me and was intentionally not answering. As a lawyer, I knew the consequences of banging on the door, so I swallowed my anger and opened the community group chat, directly tagging 3401. The building manager said you've locked the rooftop. Please unlock it immediately. My message went out, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea. No reply from 3401, and not a peep from anyone else in the group. The saying, "Mind your own business," truly fit this situation. I thought for a moment and changed my approach. The rooftop is a public area, not a private garden. Please, the top floor owner should not infringe on the collective rights of all residents. Sure enough, when it came to interests, the topic wouldn't stay quiet. The previously silent group members started popping up, all tagging 3401. I was wondering why my dad got reported for disturbing the peace while practicing Tai Chi on the rooftop. You were planning to lock it all along, huh? Seriously, my son was playing up there, and suddenly the police came and chased us out, saying it was a public safety hazard. That was you reporting us, wasn't it? It's not just the rooftop. She treats the elevator like her own personal space too. My kid, who's only 2, got stared down for half a minute in the elevator just for looking at her, and it scared him into crying. Wow, you really don't know what's going on until you ask. 3401 was practically a public enemy. The rooftop is an emergency evacuation area. Locking it for any reason is illegal. Please open it immediately. I seized the momentum of the group's outcry and pressed her further. After being tagged multiple times, 3,401 finally appeared, posting an image. It was a construction cost estimate, listing the prices and quantities of waterproofing materials, labor fees, and rooftop trash removal costs. Total, 50,600 renminbi. I'll unlock the door, but first, everyone needs to pay their share of the repair costs. It comes out to 372.05 per household, no discounts. When she spoke up, the previously lively group chat suddenly went silent. After all, there's a difference between interests. No one was willing to spend their hard-earned cash on maintaining a public area they could barely reach. Compared to the few hundred yuan in fees, the lock on the rooftop was no longer worth arguing over. But others might be able to let it go. I couldn't. After dragging my son all the way up here with such high hopes, I wasn't going to leave in defeat. The maintenance fees should be paid by the owner who planted the vegetables. You can't force all of us to share the cost. And besides, you didn't get everyone's approval before incurring those expenses, so it doesn't qualify as an advance payment. You have no right to demand that the owners cover it. I continued to reason with her. But she clearly wasn't someone you could reason with. She didn't even acknowledge me. Other owners, realizing they might be off the hook for paying, began to echo my sentiments. Yeah. Did you get our approval before fixing the rooftop? No kidding, the online quote is only 60 yuan per square meter. Our rooftop is just over 300 square meters, but you spent 50,000 yuan. Was the construction crew your relatives? Maybe the leak in your house was just a convenient excuse, and you're really just after our maintenance fund? Now that was a bit of a malicious twist on things. That wasn't what I was implying. Still, if this kind of pressure made her rethink things, it wouldn't hurt. No, I do want that. 3401 responded unexpectedly. I want Lawyer Zhang to lead the other residents in taking me to court, so we can thoroughly discuss the balance between rooftop maintenance responsibilities and usage rights. And while you're at it, Zhang, maybe educate your teammates on the legal consequences of defamation and slander. Lastly, if Lawyer Zhang has any other motives, feel free to message me privately. There's no need to stir up emotions in the group chat. Although it's a lawyer's job to exploit legal loopholes, lawyers aren't the only ones who know the law. She'd flipped the situation on me. What motives could I possibly have? Am I secretly pining for her affections? Worried about being misunderstood, I quickly clarified. I don't even know you. There's no need for private messages. My only goal is to lawfully defend my own rights. So is mine. 3401 wasn't backing down. It was clear that stargazing was not going to happen tonight. While I was still debating with her in the group chat, my son had fallen asleep on the stairs. Looking at his sweaty little head, I suddenly felt a wave of defeat. Tonight's series of setbacks made me start questioning myself. I wasn't just not a successful person, I was a failure. I was also an unreliable father, dragging my son up dozens of flights of stairs on a whim to see the stars, only to be met with a locked door. I thought I could talk my way through any situation, armed with legal knowledge and my sharp tongue, but I'd been rendered speechless by a stranger, and on top of that, subtly insulted. Not only could I not offer my son the vast starry sky, I couldn't even give him access to a small rooftop. I reached out to gently stroke my son's cheek, waking him up. He rubbed his eyes and asked if we could see the stars now. Not tonight, buddy. Let's go home and sleep. Daddy will figure something out tomorrow. I picked him up and headed downstairs. On my back, he squirmed a little and said, "Daddy, can we take the elevator down to the first floor and then back up to the 9th? I chuckled to myself. Right, I'd let 3,401 get me so worked up that I'd forgotten about the elevator. The last person who managed to rile me up this much had been my ex-wife. As that thought crossed my mind, my phone started ringing. It was my ex-wife. Of course, when it rains, it pours. She wasn't calling for any reason other than to fight for custody again. I didn't want to answer, but she was relentless, calling again and again until even my son looked worried. I had no choice but to pick up. And as expected, she wasted no time on pleasantries, going straight to the point. Zhongli, the school district is under lockdown. Your apartment is on a low floor and doesn't get enough sunlight. Xiaobao needs to take online classes, and his eyes can't handle it. I'm thinking of taking him to my place for now. I cut her off, explaining that the lockdown was only temporary and that the light in my apartment was fine for Xiaobao's needs. She shouldn't blow things out of proportion over such a minor issue. A minor issue? Xiaobao's pseudomyopia won't reverse if we don't intervene properly now. My ex-wife suddenly dropped a bombshell. Xiaobao has pseudomyopia. When did this happen? I looked at Xiaobao in shock, but he lowered his head, not daring to meet my eyes. Wait, Zhongli, you didn't know Xiaobao's eyes had a problem, did you? Xiaobao said. The elevator arrived, and Xiaobao pulled me inside. The phone signal cut off, leaving my ex-wife's accusations outside the closing doors. Suddenly, I remembered something and wanted to slap myself. About a month ago, Xiaobao's homeroom teacher had contacted me, saying he often closed his eyes during class. I had a serious talk with him, and he promised he wouldn't do it anymore and would pay attention in class. Now that I think about it, his eyes must have already started having problems when the teacher first reached out to me. But he didn't tell me. He told his mom instead. He knew full well that his mom was always looking for ways to point out my shortcomings, yet he handed her the perfect weapon. Was it because I had made him skip a meal? Xiaobao, I'm sorry. Daddy, I'm sorry. Father and son, we apologized to each other at the same time. Xiaobao threw himself into my arms, crying. I knelt down, cupped his little face, and asked why he didn't tell me his eyes were bothering him. He cried and said he didn't tell his mom either. His mom had asked the teacher, and that's how she ended up taking him to the hospital. She had also asked him if I had ever taken him to see a doctor. Afraid that his mom would take him away, he lied. Xiaobao's shoulders were shaking as he sobbed, and my heart clenched with him. My 7-year-old son had lied to his mom, just so he could stay with me. What a failure of a father I must be. The elevator reached the first floor, and a neighbor stood at the door with their child. I hurriedly pulled Xiaobao out of the elevator, not wanting anyone to notice we had come down from the rooftop. Once we were home, I tucked Xiaobao in as usual. It was then that he finally told me the whole truth. At first, the doctor had only said Xiaobao had a bit of eye strain and should frequently look far into the distance and spend more time in natural light. But my ex-wife had insisted that the poor lighting in my apartment was affecting Xiaobao's vision, and that's when the doctor diagnosed him with pseudomyopia. Ha! Classic lawyer tactics. She didn't even hesitate to use them in front of our son. There was no way I could let her have custody of Xiaobao. After Xiaobao fell asleep, I saw that my ex-wife had blown up my phone with calls. I called her back and told her that this minor issue wasn't a valid excuse for her to take Xiaobao away. A minor issue? If Xiaobao's vision gets worse, he'll miss out on so many opportunities in life. You're being completely irresponsible. I'm going to sue you. She wasn't going to let this go. Staying calm, I assured her that Xiaobao's vision was fine and that I would do everything I could to create a better home environment for him. How will you improve it? The buildings in your community are barely 50 meters apart, and all you can see out of your windows are other buildings. How exactly do you plan to fix that? She knew the layout of my home all too well. It was clear she had done plenty of investigating behind my back. I couldn't hold back anymore and told her to give up the idea of taking Xiaobao. He shouldn't live the way she does. Zhongli, don't think that just because you bought a school district apartment, it means your fatherly love is as strong as a mountain. All you've done is lock him up in a fiercely competitive cage. My ex-wife started screaming hysterically.
Great.
This was a psychological battle now. Whoever lost their composure first would lose. You're too emotionally unstable to be around our child. Don't contact us for a while, I said, hanging up before she could finish her tirade. But now we were stuck in lockdown. Outdoor activities were out of the question, and even looking into the distance had become a luxury. No, I had to get that lock on the rooftop opened. I had to give Xiaobao a place to gaze out. I opened the group chat, clicked on 3401's profile, and sent her a friend request, noting payment for rooftop repairs. I knew there was a chance she might publicly humiliate me for this. But for my son, I didn't care about saving face anymore. Tomorrow, I was taking Xiaobao to watch the sunrise from that rooftop. If she didn't accept my request, I'd bring the property management and the police to knock on her door. But my concerns were unfounded. She accepted almost immediately and sent me a number. I transferred the exact amount, and she confirmed receipt with an OK emoji. She was so straightforward that I regretted dragging things out in the group chat. But after she took the money, she went silent, not mentioning anything about unlocking the door. I waited patiently for a while before cautiously asking when she'd be unlocking it tomorrow. She replied that the lock wouldn't be opened until all the owners had paid their share of the repair costs. This was too much. But I didn't dare criticize her. All I could do was apologize, explaining that I had only mentioned her in the group chat because I wanted the lock opened and I hadn't anticipated the malicious comments that followed. She told me there was no need to apologize. If I truly felt guilty, I should convince the others to pay up. This is really too much. I could go to the group chat and humiliate myself, but no one is going to follow me and pay. And I don't even think I'm in the wrong. The roof repairs need my consent before I can pay. Her locking the door and extorting money is illegal. I don't have time to go through legal procedures with her, so I'll just accept my bad luck and pay to avoid trouble. But I don't have the right to demand others do the same. Look, I don't have the right to interfere with other people's decisions, but since I've paid, I should be entitled to my legal rights. If you don't want to open a lock, at least give me a key. I proposed the most reasonable solution, but she rejected it flat out. That's not how it works. You were the one who led the opposition to using the repair fund in the first place. You interfered with their decision. Now you've paid 300 yuan and want to enjoy the same rights as someone like me who spent 56,000 yuan. As a lawyer, do you really think that's fair? So that's where she's been waiting for me. No wonder she's not opening the door. It's to force me to bring this up in the group chat, right? Dragging this out won't work, and by the looks of it, even if the police come, she won't open the lock. What she really wants is simple money. And it's not like I can't afford it. So, I transferred 25,000 yuan to her. Now I should be entitled to the same rights, right? But she returned it, saying it was only half. I was about to explode with anger. I clenched my teeth and transferred her 55,000 yuan, telling her that I'd pay for the repairs this time, and the extra is for her trouble. She didn't take it. Instead, she asked under what authority I was covering the cost. Was it compensation for the gardening homeowners, or was I taking responsibility on behalf of all the residents? Did I get their consent before footing this bill? No, I didn't need their consent. I'm just burning money, being charitable. Is that okay? Sorry, I'm not a charity and don't accept donations. This woman is like a rock in a latrine, stinky and stubborn. I couldn't go head-to-head with her, so I softened my tone and said I'd take responsibility for all the residents. She finally gave in a little, saying that was acceptable. I punched the couch and got up to do a little waltz. For a moment, I even kind of understood my ex-wife. She ran away from home, found herself an older man with money, and used his money to go abroad for a degree. For years later, she returned and started a law firm, becoming a career woman. The old man passed away suddenly, and she inherited a large sum of money and a villa. All of this gave her the leverage to fight me for our son. Having money is really something. While everyone else in the community is stuck wandering in the courtyard, I can spend 50,000 yuan to give my son exclusive access to the rooftop. What a thrill. But don't think I'm actually going to be the fool here. Once the rooftop owner accepts this money, the power will be in my hands. She'll have no choice but to open the rooftop, and as for the money, she'll have to return it immediately. I'm a lawyer. I can claim she's occupying public space and extorting the residents. She won't be able to wriggle out of that one. I poured myself a glass of red wine, trying to swallow down all the frustration from tonight. Then my phone lit up again. It was 3,401. If you're going to take responsibility for all the residents, you need to make them acknowledge their own responsibilities. Who owns the rooftop usage rights? How are the maintenance and repair responsibilities divided? What's the proper way to use it? Every resident needs to reconfirm these, and once they've signed off, I can accept your payment. And, by the way, I'll need you to write a statement saying that it was your initiative to cover the repair costs for all the residents and your reason for doing so. Don't turn around and use the key to get me in trouble later. The sip of red wine stuck in my throat. I didn't swallow anything. She was playing me. I was the one who opposed having the residents sign the agreement to use the repair fund, and now she wants me to go door to door asking for signatures? Those people didn't even respond to her legitimate request as a rooftop owner, so how would they react to me offering unasked for help? She didn't want money. She just wanted to mess with me. And she even predicted my next move? This woman is no simple opponent. I gave up and decided to come clean, telling her I just wanted to take my son up to the rooftop to watch the stars. I even revealed my scars, telling her about my failed marriage and repeating all the insults my ex-wife had thrown at me. I told her I could endure everything, except losing my son. She was silent for a while, then asked why I couldn't let go. His mother can give him a garden, but all I can offer is a corner of the rooftop. I said it's not the same. Her garden is someone else's legacy. But on this corner of the rooftop, there's a sky I fought for. I want my son to grow into a man who stands tall, not a scavenger. As I typed those words, my eyes blurred and finally, I broke down sobbing. I thought of my ex-wife, how she used to be such a sweet, innocent girl. How did she become a scavenger? Her face now twisted and hideous. 3401 was silent for a long time before asking why my ex-wife left. I really don't know. Back then, she was always angry about who slept with the child at night, about the ratio of formula to breastfeeding. My mother was accustomed to yielding, and I never argued with her about these minor issues. She left on a sunny afternoon. Little Bao woke up from his nap, crying for milk. Normally, his mother would comfort him. But that day, she didn't. Little Bao's crying grew louder, and we heard the sound of the door slamming from the hallway. My ex-wife just disappeared like that. I searched for her for a year and felt guilty with my mother for another year. I regretted not taking care of her and the child immediately when Little Bao woke up. At that time, I had discovered a flaw in the testimony of a murder case I was working on. My mother was arranging ingredients for Buddha jumps over the wall soup in the pot, planning to finish and wash her hands before going in. A year later, when she came with the old man to ask me how much to divorce, I said only one word: get out. And that's where the story ends. 3401 concluded, your ex-wife was right. You only care about yourself. Others' matters are trivial to you. Then she refunded my money. A terrifying thought suddenly crossed my mind. Could she be my ex-wife? After my ex-wife began contesting the custody of little Bao last year, we went to court multiple times. To be honest, her performance in court made her admirable. Sharp thinking, clear logic, and every word sounded powerful. She claimed that she left because she suffered from severe postpartum depression and struggled to survive for the sake of our son, which moved all the women in the courtroom to tears. If I hadn't kept the surveillance video of her coming with the old man to negotiate divorce, I might not have won against her. And this 3401, who joined the homeowners group after this year's spring festival and first appeared to confront me and then repeatedly attacked me. The mysterious style and argumentative attitude were just too much like my ex-wife. And how did she investigate my family situation so thoroughly? Moreover, the community is now controlled, allowing entry but not exit. She said she wanted to take my son away. Where exactly? And why was the rooftop locked precisely when I needed it? Wasn't she forcing me to send the child away? The thought was terrifying. After hesitating for a long time, I finally asked, "Who are you?" She didn't reply. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. My back was cold with fear. I tried to check her profile on social media, but it was either blank or locked. I thought about calling the property manager to check her identity, but was afraid of leaving evidence for her. In the end, I had no choice but to beg, saying that no matter who you are or what grievances or hatred you hold against me, I am willing to apologize and make amends. But please, do not make things difficult for my son. He has always dreamed of becoming an Air Force pilot. If his vision deteriorates, his dream will be shattered. I'm not trying to cling to him. He wants to be with his father. Because I helped him take his first steps, taught him his first word, and helped him with his first fight. He has heard countless times about how I grew from a child playing in the mud to a top lawyer. I am his support, his pride, and his role model. He needs me, and I cannot let go. In these trying times, with everyone suffering, please do not make things harder for the child. After sending a dozen messages, she finally replied, "The key is under the doormat at my door. You can pick it up anytime. But apart from little Bao, you cannot bring anyone else to the rooftop. And do not let little Bao throw anything from the rooftop, or I will really call the police." I slapped myself hard, just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Then I rushed out, went straight to the top floor, and found an antique bronze key under the doormat of 3401. I held the key tightly, hesitated for a moment, and finally knocked on the door. This time, the door opened. A young woman I didn't recognize came out. She had her long hair loosely tied back, wore a white dress, and looked beautiful yet exhausted. She was neither my ex-wife nor the aggressive neighbor the others had described. I was momentarily speechless, unsure whether to apologize or thank her first. She, however, seemed to have anticipated my arrival and was not surprised. "Do you rent here?" she asked, crossing her arms. I asked in confusion, "What?" 3401 told me something that left me stunned. My ex-wife had contacted her last year, wanting to buy her house, but she refused. Last month, my ex-wife tried again to rent the house, but she declined. Just now, while she was talking to me, my ex-wife called her again, offering a high price to rent the house. Even if it was just for one room, or just during the day for the child's online classes. She honestly evaluated my ex-wife as being smarter than me, more resourceful, and more daring. She must have asked all the top floor owners in the Shuefu community to find me as her target, because I am the only single woman without children. "So, did you agree?" I asked, feeling like I was hearing an unfinished horror story, shivering. She shook her head and said no. My ex-wife couldn't afford the price she quoted. I was shocked. What kind of astronomical price did she quote that my ex-wife couldn't afford? "So, are you renting?" she asked me again. I was tempted. The top floor's lighting and view are indeed excellent, something I had been seeking. But with the community restricted to entry only, where would my ex-wife go? You can stay in the master bedroom all day, and you can use the study, living room, and kitchen. I won't charge you." "No charge?" I instinctively raised my guard, suspecting she might be tricking me. But her expression was extremely serious. "No charge, and I can even pay you, as long as you promise to help me get my son back." 10 minutes later, I walked down the 9th floor with a light step. When I got home, I realized I had forgotten to take the elevator again. I was so happy. The night took a dramatic turn. Not only did I get the key to the rooftop, but I also rented a spacious study for my son, where he could look up and see the sun, moon, and stars. The price was that I had to fight a custody battle for 3,401. No, for Lin Jia. I must win, not lose. She didn't make a deal with my ex-wife because my ex-wife couldn't even get her own child back. And I am definitely skilled in using the law to achieve my goals. I took her praise as a compliment. Her case seemed difficult and hopeless, but it was actually a small matter. I could immediately identify the point to break through. I had her organize the evidence and prepare the materials according to my requirements. Now I need a good night's sleep. A chaotic day ended this way. Indeed, fate favors those who work hard. Lying in bed, it still felt like everything that happened tonight was a dream. After falling asleep, I dreamed of nothing. The next morning, I was woken by Little Bao's cheers and face snuggling. I had left a note on his bedside that read, "When you wake up, Daddy will take you to see the sunrise." Under the note was the rooftop key and the top floor elevator card. I hurriedly got up and took Little Bao to the rooftop, where we saw the red sun rising from the city skyline. Little Bao was ecstatic, cheering and jumping with joy, the brilliant sunrise lighting up his young face. I quickly signaled him to be quieter, so as not to disturb others. They haven't fulfilled their maintenance and care responsibilities, so they don't have the right to enjoy the rooftop's beauty. But then I thought, it's hard not to feel a bit disappointed. When did these once ordinary sights become so expensive and rare? Fortunately, I still have a piece of rooftop in this city. The rooftop, recently waterproofed, was spotless and free of any clutter. After watching the sunrise and having breakfast, I took Little Bao to knock on 3,401's door. When Lin Jia saw Little Bao, her eyes instantly welled up. She handed me an envelope and hurried back into her bedroom. Little Bao walked into the spacious, bright study and clung to my waist, unwilling to let go. But I felt a bit heavy-hearted, filled with guilt. The ceiling and walls here were obviously newly repaired, with a strong smell of fresh paint lingering. Clearly, the rooftop leak had caused significant damage to her home, but she hadn't included the repair costs in the invoice. This loss should have been covered by the maintenance fund, but she silently bore the cost herself. She was not petty or selfish. It was I, along with those who seemed to support me, who were deceitful and evading responsibility. Once this period passes, I'll make sure to set things right with these people. With the new high vantage point and the spacious study, Little Bao could attend online classes without any psychological burden. His enthusiasm was high, and his learning efficiency was remarkable. While he was in class, I reviewed the materials Lin Jia had given me. She had married a wealthy man, a second-generation rich kid, but from her words, it was clear that their union was based on love. However, when she became pregnant with their child, that love had served its purpose and ended. Her ex-husband had cheated on her with an internet celebrity during her pregnancy. Her mother-in-law was indifferent, saying it was a minor issue that would pass. Later, you'll be the rightful wife, and those vixens won't even get near our family's ancestral grave. She considered abortion and divorce to end everything, but when her son began to move in her womb that night, it made her strong. She wanted to leave, but was confined by her mother-in-law. After her son was born, she finally found an opportunity to escape, only to be chased and have her leg broken by her ex-husband. Confined to bed for several months, she reflected deeply. After discarding her crutches, she renegotiated the divorce with her ex-husband. She voluntarily gave up custody of her son, demanded a sum of money and this school district house, and found a decent job. Then she began an epic custody battle. Over 2 years, she hired famous lawyers, spent all her money, and still ended up defeated. In the end, she was advised to stop making unreasonable demands and not ruin her child's bright future. As for domestic violence, it was unanimously seen as a case of stealing chickens and losing rice, self-inflicted. I closed the dossier and sent her a WeChat message. If I can't overturn the case, I will publicly apologize to her in the media. She didn't reply. During the lunch break, I planned to take Little Bao home for a meal when Lin Jia came out of the kitchen carrying a steaming pot. I'm not very good at cooking, so Little Bao can just eat a little. She placed the pot on the table, touching her ear and smiling shyly. Looking at the pot of noodles with vegetables and meat, I felt my heart soften. When my ex-wife was pregnant, I had imagined countless times the happy scene of the three of us sitting around the table. Now, Little Bao was 7, and this scene was happening in the home of a stranger. Little Bao clearly wanted to eat and looked at me expectantly. As soon as I smiled, he understood and said, "Thank you, Auntie. The food you made smells so good." Little Bao is so well behaved. Daddy should eat too. I made enough for 2. Lin Jia startled herself when she spoke. She must have, like me, imagined this scene countless times. Although she never had a proper day as a mother, she had instinctively practiced the role of mother. Let's eat together. I wanted to talk to you about she coming home. She was her son. I intentionally used the term coming home. As a lawyer, I was skilled at choosing my words carefully. Lin Jia's eyes reddened again, and she hurriedly turned away. I'll go get another set of dishes. The meal was lively, with Lin Jia constantly going in and out of the kitchen, pouring water for Little Bao, and bringing seaweed and fried eggs. To repay her, I ordered seafood takeout and invited Lin Jia to dinner at my place. She repeatedly declined, and I didn't want to force her. Little Bao, however, had a bright idea and suggested we have a picnic on the rooftop. Lin Jia magically produced a picnic mat and lantern from the storage room, clearly well prepared for raising a child. We 3 enjoyed a seafood feast under the stars and then returned home. The next morning, I took Little Bao upstairs for morning exercise, then went to Lin Jia's place for lessons, work, lunch, and dinner. Life fell into place in an unexpected way, leaving behind the chaos and becoming harmonious and orderly, bringing peace of mind. Perhaps we had all become accustomed to finding the most beneficial cooperative mode in the fast-paced society. Or perhaps we were all anxious and needed to huddle together for warmth. Not just us, but on the 3rd day of being trapped, other residents also began seeking a way out. That evening, while the 3 of us were on the rooftop eating fried chicken and drinking beer, a loud crash suddenly occurred. The fire door was kicked open, and a burly man with a big gold chain and a small watch came up carrying a barbecue grill and a box of beer. To avoid startling Little Bao, Lin Jia remained silent and continued peeling shrimp for him. I also planned to avoid conflict, thinking that people were going stir-crazy in these extraordinary times. I didn't want to confront him head-on. Instead, I hoped he would blow off steam, and we could discuss the fire door and rooftop repairs later. But he didn't intend to let us off easily. He shone a flashlight in Lin Jia's face and sarcastically said, "No wonder the door is locked. You really think of this as your private garden, huh?" I stood up to shield Lin Jia and Little Bao, asking him to speak calmly. The flashlight was turned off. "What's wrong? Is the flashlight disturbing you too?" The man didn't heed the advice and intensified his actions, shining the flashlight on my face. I pushed his hand away and told him that not only was he disturbing the peace, but also causing a public disturbance, and it was best not to create trouble in these times. "What are you going to do? Call the police. Let them and everyone see how you're occupying public property. Oh, and my dad was put in there because of you guys. If you don't apologize to him, this matter isn't over." So it was his father who was reported for disturbing the peace. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Your father wasn't doing Tai Chi on the rooftop. He was video chatting with people at 2 a.m. with the speakerphone on, which is why the police took him away, not for disturbing the peace. Lin Jia said calmly from behind me. The man was stunned and, realizing something, kicked the barbecue grill far away in frustration. Lin Jia cleaned up the picnic mat and containers and was about to leave with little Bao when a middle-aged woman came up the stairs carrying barbecue ingredients and accompanied by a little girl. "Hey, Zhang Lu, you're here too?" The woman recognized me. She also knew Lin Jia. "Oh, you too, what's this? Are you two pretending to be a couple in the group to scam us for repair fees?" People's words can be terrifying. In less than 3 minutes, the headline Lawyer Zhang and the single female rooftop owner occupy the rooftop and scam repair fees exploded in the residents' group chat. I have to say, this group was indeed full of talent. With a mix of scandalous affairs and economic crimes, nothing excites people more than this kind of sensational story. The residents, who had been repressed for 3 days, found their release and maximized their storytelling abilities, making the situation increasingly absurd and grotesque. In the end, it was said that Lawyer Zhang and the female rooftop owner were engaging in wild activities on the rooftop during this extraordinary period. Indeed, people's intelligence often plummets in a crowd. I had Lin Jia temporarily leave the group chat. This issue was caused by me, so I should handle it. Lin Jia said there was no need, that we should face it together. I insisted on taking charge with a bit of a domineering attitude, took her phone, and deleted the chat, and exited the group. At that moment, someone suggested that all the residents go up to the rooftop, overthrow the landlord bullies, and reclaim their territory. The burly man quickly posted a barbecue video, saying he had already occupied the high ground and was just waiting for his friends to come up for a victory party. The fiery grill ignited the residents' emotions, and soon the fire escape stairs were filled with thunderous footsteps. I considered that with so many people coming up, there would likely be trouble if they got drunk. Since Lin Jia would be alone at home, I used the excuse of needing to work late and asked Lin Jia to stay at my place with little Bao for the night. "Go ahead. We'll deal with it tomorrow." Lin Jia didn't argue with me, a lesson learned from her experience with domestic violence. I said it wasn't safe. I needed to keep an eye on things so I could report any extreme actions to the police in time. Lin Jia didn't say more, packed a few clothes, and left with me. I escorted her and little Bao inside, locked the door, and then returned to the rooftop. Luckily, the elevator card was limited to floors, so I didn't encounter anyone. Otherwise, I might have been surrounded and beaten in the elevator. The rooftop revelry continued until the early morning. The group chat was flooded with mentions directed at me, filled with lewd and vulgar remarks. Someone even suggested stomping on the floorboards to cheer on Zhang Lu and the rooftop woman. Before long, rhythmic vibrations started coming from the rooftop. These lunatics. It was time to teach them a lesson. I turned on my recording pen to capture the sound of the floorboards being stomped on, then opened the group chat and sent a message. "It's too late. Please clean up the trash on the rooftop and let us know which resident planted vegetables up there." They probably didn't expect me to respond. The chat fell silent for a moment before exploding with even more fury. Profanities and insults flooded in, with decorum being thrown out the window. Someone took the opportunity to claim that it was their father who planted the vegetables, daring anyone to come up and take them if they could, and if not, to accept their misfortune. All right, just a moment. After sending the message, I took screenshots of the chat records and backed them up on my computer. I then dressed up and went up to the rooftop. The crowd was initially stunned but quickly surrounded me, asking if I was looking for trouble. I shook my head and said, I just wanted to talk about the rooftop maintenance responsibilities and proper usage. Normally, the warranty period for the rooftop is 3 years, but if there is any man-made damage during this time, the developer does not cover it. The person who caused the damage is responsible for repairs, with no objections. Therefore, I hope the resident who admitted to planting vegetables would come forward and take responsibility. If this resident refuses to take responsibility or deny it, The repair costs will have to be shared equally among all the residents, amounting to $372.05 per household. This money had already been advanced by the top floor owner, and I had also paid my share before coming up to the rooftop. The insults against the top floor owner and me constituted a criminal act. If I didn't see an apology by tomorrow morning, I would hold everyone accountable. Additionally, whoever damaged the fire door leading to the rooftop should fix it. "I'll fix your mom." A roar came from the crowd, and a beer bottle flew at me. I was hit unexpectedly and got a face full of beer. Those who smelled blood acted like beasts exposed under the moonlight, pouncing on me. That night, I broke the neighborhood's entry ban. Of course, it was the ambulance that took me away. It wasn't a major issue, just a cut on my head from glass. When those people charged at me, I turned and rushed down the stairs, then took the elevator to the security office for help. By the time these drunks reached the first floor like zombies, the police were already waiting at the gate. Group brawling during extraordinary times is a serious crime. They thought there were no cameras on the rooftop and that they could get away with it. But I had a recording pen and a mini camera. The leading drunk, along with assault with a weapon, could face a 3-year sentence. But I settled it through mediation. I knew people were anxious in these extraordinary times, and neighbors usually got along well. The truth is, everyone apologized to Lin Jia and deeply realized their responsibilities, all paying for the repairs. I waited until all 50,000 yuan was collected and all the residents had signed a commitment to use the rooftop civilly before being discharged from the hospital. At that time, the neighborhood was still under control, so I didn't rush back and worked an extra week at the law firm. When I got home, Lin Jia was cooking dumplings for little Bao. When she saw me, she turned away angrily. After a while, she came out holding a spoon, fuming. "So you decided to come back?" Little Bao stuck out his tongue at me, saying, "Daddy, why are you back? Auntie said you went out to play without taking us." The little rascal didn't know about his dad's heroic deeds on the rooftop. Lin Jia hadn't told him. I smiled, sent him away, took off my suit, washed my hands, pulled out a file from my bag, and handed it to Lin Jia. "Open it and see." Lin Jia looked at it and started crying, then laughing through her tears, asking me how I managed it, wondering if I went to fight that scumbag again. I gave her a disapproving look and said, "I'm a lawyer. How could I break the law? Besides, dealing with such people doesn't require physical violence. I can choke his lifeline with a few phone calls and make him squirm in pain." I asked if he wanted to keep his child or his ill-gotten wealth, and he chose the latter. "First, bring Shishi home. You can sort out the domestic violence issue with him yourself." I placed the cooked dumplings on the table and handed her a tissue. She smiled and nodded. "I'll need you to be my attorney then." I said I could, but it would cost more. The news of my return home spread quickly. The big man with the gold chain personally came to visit me and handed me 5 bundles of cash. He said he would cover the rooftop repairs entirely and promised it would remain unlocked, so anyone who wanted to go up could do so. Being stuck at home during such extraordinary times was truly suffocating. Not being able to go up to the rooftop for some fresh air could drive a person mad. However, once the restrictions were lifted, he planned to lay a layer of waterproof rubber on the rooftop to improve sound insulation. He also promised to remind all residents to keep their children and elderly from running around, planting vegetables, or playing videos loudly. It sounded sincere, but I declined his offer. Public property should be maintained collectively, and no one should be exempt from this responsibility. It's more effective than 1,000 prohibitions. Zhang Lu, this is your field of expertise. I'll listen to you. The big man gave me a thumbs up with admiration. But I stopped him from taking the money back. I said that in addition to the rubber layer, the rooftop could be enhanced with some landscaping and more entertainment facilities for children to prevent them from running around. I have a design plan I made while I was hospitalized. I went to my study and brought back a blueprint and a paper bag. I initially planned to cover the repair costs for all the residents, but the top floor owner disagreed. "If you want to do it, include mine as well." I placed the blueprint and paper bag on top of his bundles of cash and pushed them toward him. He picked up the blueprint, examined it several times, and then smacked his forehead. It's always the cultured ones who have brains. All right, that's settled. Our district school property was truly worth the money. Yes, such an expensive rooftop should not be used for planting vegetables. This city is too stuffy. We need to build a garden for our souls. I smiled and poured him a cup of tea. He seemed taken aback for a moment, then grinned and scratched his head awkwardly. Who planted vegetables on the rooftop? I know, because I'm a lawyer. His father was caught by the police for naked video chatting on the rooftop, but he tried to spin it as Tai Chi practice. Lin Jia didn't expose him in the group, so he thought she was easy to bully. That night, during the commotion on the rooftop, he incited others to take the blame. I spared him face, but didn't mean to let him off the hook. He had to pay what was due, no less. Also, for the parent who was reprimanded by the police for their child climbing the outer wall and throwing objects, and then vented their anger on Lin Jia in the group, I made sure she added a guardrail to the rooftop. With leverage in hand, the big man didn't dare to play tricks. 2 months later, our rooftop garden was completed. Under my reasonable requests, the property management opened access to the rooftop for all residents. Regardless of which floor they lived on, they could take the elevator directly to the top. That day, to leave some space for the kids, I didn't go up. Little Bao arranged to play with Lin Jia and Shishi by himself. A few days ago, I took him for an eye checkup with his mother, and there were no issues with his vision. His mother temporarily quieted down but gave him an excuse to run to the rooftop. If I showed any sign of stopping him, he would say his eyes felt uncomfortable. Fortunately, Lin Jia didn't indulge him. Even if he went up, he still had to study. I was relieved not to have to worry about it. While I was reviewing documents, the big man with the gold chain came knocking with beer, saying he wanted to make amends and didn't want his child to be looked down upon by the neighbors. I said I understood. If he didn't pick on the top floor owner, I wouldn't pick on him either. He relaxed a bit, handed me a beer, and cheerfully asked about my relationship with the top floor owner. I asked why he suddenly brought it up. He said someone had asked who Shishi's father was. Lin Jia wouldn't say, but Little Bao let it slip. Oh, what did Little Bao say? I was curious. The big man grinned. Little Bao said Shishi is his little brother, and his dad is Shishi's dad. The top floor owner couldn't hide it and turned red. Is that the case? I smiled and clinked my beer bottle with his. Little Bao is right.